Hey everybody, back with another video. This is part 2 of me messing with this Sencore CR70. I'll link to the first video up there. This is, I think, Lord Doubletree or something like that. I can't remember. And in the previous video, basically, I had swapped out. I did a test on it, and it wasn't getting high voltage on the test. So I swapped out both the main board, which is this one right here, board 100 down below, like that, and the switchboard. And the switchboard had a broken heater filament adjust pot, which is right here. So I replaced that and got it working, and then I was like, all right, let me try to fix it. I swapped back in his main board, 100, and it worked fine. Boards have some adjustments. We got 2 adjustments down here for the time delay of when you do auto restore, like this, and you press this auto restore button. It'll cycle on for like 4 seconds and off for 2 and then on for 4. This is to adjust that on-off timing. You also have, I think, let me see, I have to get my head in here. The cutoff adjust and the emissions calibration, cutoff calibration, heater calibration. Actually, hopefully I can cut this out somewhat. And if you can see that current limit, this is on the switchboard, and filament calibration are both on the switchboard. Current limit. What does that mean? I don't know. Is that how much current during the restore? Then we have our cutoff calibration, our emission calibration, which I just showed, our auto timer calibration, and our shorts calibration. Now the only problem is I have no calibration guide for this thing. So I don't know what those things are supposed to be adjusting, but that's what I figured I would show in this video. The only thing I have is the manual, and the manual does give some kind of clues, like calibration current 10 microamps to 20 microamps for video CRTs, and then for projection, I think part of it is the adjustments adjust the meter and what it's reading based off of what it's outputting versus adjusting what it's outputting. But I don't know. That's what we're going to find out. I'm going to try to calibrate it to the best of my ability with limited knowledge of what the heck those adjustments are actually doing. All right, the first one we're going to mess with is R1. God, I can't see. R1. And that is, see that little hole right there? I'm holding the camera, but so I can't really see it, but you get it right there. That little hole right there where my thumb is pointing at. That is the R1. On the other side is a little variable resistor that you can adjust. And then the current limiting, which is R37, I think, is that little hole just sticking out barely from where the transformer is. If you can see that right there. I know it's a little blurry, but right there. Do not have the... Oh, do I have it plugged in? I shouldn't be touching this. It's plugged in. So yeah, there's R37. But the first one we're going to do is the heater or filament calibration. And let me flip it over and show you what it does. All right, let's see how I do this working around the camera. Okay, so I have my heater black on F1. My digital multimeter black lead is on F1. Positive is on F2. Set it. I've done this before, but when you're using the universal tester to test, F1 on 1, F2 on 2, K on 3, G1 on 4, G2 on 5. I'm going to go to our filament set, and if you can see this, oh my gosh, I can't see it. there's a little red line where 6.3 volts is. So you can see I'm adjusting the filament set, and it's increasing and decreasing, and you see your filament voltage right there. I'll lift it up just a little bit like this. So if I go, and you see my meter over there. So at 5 volts, it's almost at 5. But it's a little off, right? That's at 6. It says 6.1. That little red line right there is supposed to be 6.3, and it's at 6.4. And then you just keep going up. That's 8. So let's go to 6. All right, that's about 6. And that should be close to 8. 7.9, 9, almost 12, almost 13. And it's just reading a little bit above 13. If I come down to 2, below 2. So the meter is not exactly adjusting all the way perfect with what the multimeter is reading out. Now you can't just adjust this, but I think you want to adjust your analog meter so that that's 0. Maybe I'd adjust it just a little bit, because it does look like it's that's kind of at 0 right there. Yeah, nice. Okay. So adjusted our analog meter, it's at 0. And I don't know how to do this really, but I'm going to try to do it with you all. So let's go ahead and it's kind of like a little square looking thing. And I have a little TV tool with a little square end on it. So we're going to actually do it this way. It's over here. So I'm going to come into my little hole. All right, I got my tool in there. All right, there we go. Let's try this. Okay. So I want to adjust it to 6.3 on my digital multimeter over there. So we're going to go to 6. And we want to get to 6.3. And try to get that. Now, it's actually right on the nose. But just to show you that the thing in the back, if I can hold this damn thing, it actually, this adjusts what it's reading. See, my digital multimeter says 6.3 volts, but my analog meter now says 6. So we want to align this with 6.3. All right, that's pretty close. That looks pretty close to me. Turn it off. Back at 0. Zoom back in. Turn it on. And it's basically right at the red line. Is almost 6.3 volts. I mean, it's pretty close, right? So first test done. Okay, so now we're going to go to try to figure out what the current limit adjust or calibration does. I have red lead to G1, negative lead to K. I have my multimeter on amps, and I'm in the manual restore 1. If I press this, I get 120 amps, and it should be at this second line here. If you guys see that, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150. So there's 5 lines between the restoring current right there. So really it should be it's reading 130 when it's actually 120. Now, I don't know like I said, I don't know what this is actually going to do, but we're going to mess with it here in a second. This should be 170. And you can see the meter blasting out. And it is supposed to be at 170 milliamps, I think. It's at 176. We'll check the manual real quick. Let's see. Restore function. Remove G1 shorts. Applied voltage 450 volts, it says. Reju 450 volts. Restoration 100 milliamps for auto and manual. Oh, this manual seems jacked up. It says 100 milliamps for auto and manual 1, 100 milliamps for manual 2. No, this manual's jacked. It's probably 150 or 100 or 120 and 170, or maybe it should be 120 and 150. I don't know. Interesting. I might have to dig a little bit to see if we can figure that out. Manual 1 and manual 2 restore times determined by user. Yeah, that's right. Auto 4 seconds on, 2 seconds off for 3 cycles. All right, so we got some not great information. When was this manual printed? I can't even find this manual online, by the way. All right, I don't know when it's printed. Okay, whatever. Let me pause. I'm going to hook this up into the current, which is on the switchboard. It's the one that's right by the transformer. Mine it's a little square, so. All right, we'll do it this way. Let's go to manual restore 1. Go ahead, turn it on. All right, we're getting 120. So let me adjust this thing and see if it makes a difference. I'm going to go all the way in one direction. No difference. Still just said 120. Let's go there. Still said 170. So I don't. Oh, you know what? I didn't look at the meter though. Let's see. Let's go to manual restore 1. Alright, let's go all the way the other way. See if it's just adjusting our meter. Alright, that's all the way the other way. Nope, no difference. It's just off. So I have no idea what else would that do if it's not limiting the current. It's supposed to be limiting the current. $122 and it's reading 130 on the meter. Now my meter doesn't look as good either as far as adjusting it. This is where it's like kind of, oh, Did that adjust it? No, it just says 120. 175. So I don't know. I don't know what that current limiting is doing. All right, I think I figured it out. I moved my meter, still on amps, but I moved it to F1 and F2 for the heater filament voltage test. And I think R37 on the switchboard, which is board 200, it's saying it's calibrated plus or minus 5%, calibrated at 6.3 volts, 900 milliamps. So I did my filament set. Let's switch it on, get a high-pitched noise, which is weird. And we're at 922 milliamps at 6.3 volts. Why isn't my no, it's weird that, oh, okay, probably because it, so there's 900 milliamps. Or maybe right there. It's how much current is going through the heater. 0.899 is what I have it adjusted to now. So let me turn that off. And go back to voltage. Like that. And now we're at 6.3 volts. I know it's hard to see with the... We're at 6.3 volts and we're at 900 milliamps, I assume. So that's two things adjusted so far. Let's get back to calibrating this thing. So we want to adjust the cutoff calibration, and it says that it the cutoff box. So we're going to adjust this meter reading into that little cutoff box, that little black box right there, and it says current measured between K and G1 on projection CRTs, 26 microamps to 53 microamps plus or minus 5%. Scope CRTs are 0.33 to 0.66, and regular video CRTs are 10 microamps to 20 microamps. So what I did is, with my cutoff on 20 volts, I went into my ohms calculator and I first measured resistance between K and G1, and there was no resistance between K and G1 when I'm on the cutoff test anyway. And then I basically said, okay, how much resistance do I need to apply to the line between K and G1 to get between 10 and 20 microamps? And it's roughly between 1 million ohms and 2 million ohms to get 10 microamps. So I used, let me see if you can see this. I used a 1.5 million ohm resistor, hooked that up to my red, the other side to G1, and my black lead to K. And if we flip we're on the cutoff test, we switch to on, and we have about 12 microamps. It's negative at this point, but 12 microamps. And you can see I'm not in the cutoff box. So I need to adjust that setting. Let me turn it off, working around this, which is right there, if you can see it, right there. So we're going to just turn this up a little bit like that. And then make sure I didn't screw anything up because I'm flipping stuff around. Is all my stuff good? Yeah. All right. Okay, it's a little bit better, but we still need to get it into the cutoff, so let me do that again. Turn it up a little bit. I want to get it right in the middle, so a little bit more. Say 0.2 microamps. 0.2, what's going on there? Did I mess something up? I might have blown a fuse or something. This thing sucks, I think, when it comes to these microamp things. Oh, there it went to 12. All right. A little bit more. And it's a little bit too high. Let me go a little bit down to the left. And somehow now it's way higher. What's going on there? I guess I gotta make sure that I'm getting a good reading on my microamps. All right, good reading. It's in the cutoff. Let me adjust it down just a little bit. I have no idea if I'm doing it right. Again, there's no directions here. It still seems like it's a little bit off. Now it's a little low. And now that's pretty good right there. All right, between 10 and 20 microamps. So it's at 12. Yeah, so I don't know how accurate it needs to be, but we'll see what we get there. All right, next is the shorts calibration, and it says HK shorts 2 mega ohm plus or minus 10%, G1 shorts 20 mega ohm. I have a 2 mega ohm load here, and then I use two 10 mega ohms here, and we'll go ahead and set this up. Basically, what you got to do is, let me get this out. Everything's powered off. This should be 2 mega ohms. If I plug in my thing. Two mega ohms, I think. No, 20, two tens, 20 mega ohms. So that's 20 mega ohms. So if we adjust that between, let's see here, G1 and K. So we want G1 on one side and K on the other. right, can you see that all right? And then we're going to go to our G1 short test. And further in the book, let's see if there's a shorts. Let's see here. It says in HK shorts function, the center line between bad and good indicates 2 mega ohms of resistance, while G1 shorts function center line indicates 20 mega ohms. A reading of near zero on the meter scale in either function indicates a short having little or no resistance. All right, so the line should be, what we want to do as far our calibration is adjust it based off of 20 mega ohms, so that's in the center line between good and bad. G1 short. And just make sure nothing's gotten jacked up. 3, 4, 5, okay. And it's a little bit to the left of bad. So we could adjust this. But I don't know. Let's check it with the HK short as well, which is going to be 2 mega ohms. Turn it off. So we want K to be on our 2 mega ohms. And now we're going to filament voltage 2. Heater to cathode. All right, change that to heater to cathode. 2 mega ohms, F and K. F2 and K is what I'm doing. Yeah, see, I actually already adjusted this, and so it's right on the 2 mega ohm on the HK short. It's right at the center line. But so it's a little bit difficult to have it in both cases be perfect, but it is straight up for HK short. It's good. Now if I go to GK short, it should read good because there's no short. Obviously, I don't have any resistance right now between G1 and K, or G1 and G2. Let's test that too. If I go disconnect this and go to G1 with our 2 mega ohm and G2, 2 mega ohm, right? G1 shorts test between G1 and K and G1 and G2, I believe. Let's double check. Yeah, see, I can adjust it a little bit if we wanted to, so that it's more into the middle line here. Let's play with it a little bit. Where is my G1? My shorts calibration is way back here in the back. Right there, so you have to kind of go in here. If you can see that right there. I'm just going to turn it up just a little bit. Yeah, it's sensitive. Let me turn it down just a little bit. See, that's almost at the midline right there. So we'll leave that alone. Let's come back to our HK short. Filament 2 to K. with 2 mega ohms. Yeah, this is 20 mega ohms. This is 2 mega ohms. Okay, HK. And that's just the heater to cathode. Yeah, see, I'm almost wanting to like adjust it down a little bit so that the HK1 in the 2 mega ohms is closer. Let me just make sure. 2 mega ohms, HK short right there, plus or minus 10%. Yeah, I want to adjust this down just a little bit. And maybe just a little bit more. Too far. Let's go up just a little bit. Damn it. There we go. All right. Now if we go to I still have my G1. So if we go to G1, this is going from G1 to G2. And it's definitely reading into bad, so I think that's a better way to adjust it. So the only thing left to do, I think, is emissions. Let me figure out how to test that. Man, this video is going to be long. Okay, this is going to be a painful video, super long, and I've been experimenting a little bit, stuck on this emission calibration setting. So it says, during emission test, the bias is removed from the G1 to simulate white video signal. I've covered that before. So it basically takes G1 voltage from like whatever it's set for, 20, 36, 42, 68, down to 0. It says G1 is tied directly to the cathode, so it will not pick up a charge which would repel electrons back to the cathode. All right. Now let's hold on for a quick second. I don't want to read it too much further. So what I wanted to do is check the resistance of K to G1 when I have it on the emission setting. Okay, so I have K and G1 hooked up, have it set to ohms, and I get, on the emissions test, instead of 0 ohms, I get 46K, which I wasn't completely expecting. If I switch it to cutoff test, it goes to over limit, so infinity. So there's no resistance between K. So it does kind of tie them together, but not, at 0 ohms, which is, I found kind of interesting. And I tested that on my spare right here, my working one. I assume it's all working. I've never really 100% tested it from a calibration standpoint, but I got the same thing. It's around 46K. All right, so that takes us to, I was just messing around with that. It says the G2 bias is the same as it was set to cutoff. This is during the normal emissions test. The beam current is developed by voltage of one of the 3 CRT type resistors is applied. Yeah, so like there's a voltage like divider or something when you go into projection and scope and stuff like that. Let's see. The meter is a good, bad reading of the tube's emission. This reading is scaled for the type of tube being tested. The center line between bad and good is video CRT 300 microamps, scope CRT 10 microamps, and a projection CRT 800 microamps. And then if we look at our specifications document, it says emissions has the same thing, 300 microamps, current measured between K and G1. Now, I think this is an error in the documentation, because why would there be current between K and G1 when they're getting tied together, and the emissions is measuring basically the cutoff control sets the G2 voltage, and emission is basically removing the G1 bias from where you set it up the cutoff. I know none of that makes sense. You have to watch previous videos, but I'm not going to fully explain it. Bottom line is that didn't make sense to me. And I tried testing it, and I can't get anything on there. What I did do is how would I get 300 microamps of load on the G2 line? And I did my ohm calculator and a 1 mega ohm resistor at 300 volts. And usually this cutoff set here will set G2 voltage between like 0 and 400 and something volts. Usually, I'm pretty sure. I'll test that real quick for you. So if I put a 1 mega ohm load at 300 volts, I should have 300 microamps, and my meter should read between bad and good right in the center line. Hopefully that's making some sense. Let's measure G2 voltage real quick. Oh, weird. Oh, I'm not even powered on and I have voltage, which is kind of strange. Is it getting drained off or something? Let's see, turn it to auto meter. Yeah, it's getting drained off. There's voltage on there. Okay, so I have my red lead to G2, black lead to K, DC volts, turn it on. We're set to emissions, and I can adjust my emissions here. Now, one thing you notice is that my meter isn't changing at all. I don't know if it should be or not, but it's definitely not moving at all over there. And if I go to cutoff, I can still change my G2 voltage as measured from K to G2 by adjusting the cutoff set knob all the way up to 400 volts, 400 plus volts. But my meter's not changing at all. It's just sitting there at the cutoff zone, which is kind of, is that weird? I don't know. I'm going to do that same test on my working one. All right, I have my meter hooked up, red on G2 and black on K, and I have it on emissions test, and I can move my cutoff knob down to like 24 volts on this one anyway, up to 400 volts. All right, and if I go to cutoff, I can see my meter. Now, my meter wasn't changing before, but now my meter is changing. See? All the way up to 400 volts. So something is not right with the emissions. So I might need to put in my spare donor main board back in to that other one. So everything else seems to be okay, but that emission setting. Let me do that and see if that makes a difference. But this is what I would expect to have happen, is that you have your cutoff, your meters moving, your analog meters moving as I raise my G2 voltage on the cutoff test. When I go to emissions, G1 is going to go down to 0, and our cutoff should be based off of 300, microamps. So if I measured, it's in the cutoff right now, Actually, this is good. Let me do this real quick. Let me turn this off. Change this to microamps. I'm still between K and G2. And if I turn it on, oh, it says over limit. Shit. I'm getting 9 milliamps, 10 milliamps. Oh, it doesn't even move. I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, the needle doesn't move at all. It's just like straight up and down for some reason. Interesting. Let me go ahead and show you how I tested the calibration on this known working one, and hopefully nothing's changed. So what I did is I take my 1 mega ohm resistor, I go positively to G2, and then K to one side of the resistor, come through here into my meter, put it, for amps, and I'm measuring microamps. And let's turn this on. And now we have a load here. That's not 300. Is that the right resistor? It should be. It's not even changing any. Okay, there we go. I can get it to change. But it won't go above that number. I thought I had it figured out. Yeah, I'm puzzled now because that should have been 300 microamps. But it says between G1 and K is how you measure it. But where are you putting the load to generate the 300 microamps? I don't know. This is kind of crazy. Okay, I don't know if this is how you're supposed to do it, but I'm going to do my cutoff until I get 300 microamps on here. Between K and G2. And then if I can do this with one hand here while it's on. Alright, I got my finger on it. See, I'm adjusting the emissions adjuster. Hopefully I don't touch anything and kill myself here. And you can see it. I'm still at 300 microamps basically. Let me change that to 300 microamps. Like right. It's very tight. Alright, that's close enough. And there's my meter. This is my working one. Get my finger in the right spot. And that should be the center cutoff. So I don't know what they're talking about. G1 measured between K and G1. I think the book misprinted that because that seems like it adjusts correctly. And I have a 300 microamp load on it. And that's probably around 300 volts. regardless of whether you can move it or not, the emissions calibration is done. Alright, I got the main board 100, swapped back in from my donor, and it's better. It still behaves a little bit different, but again, this board set is a little bit different than the other ones. This was built in, like, this board set came from the 80s, the other one was from the 90s. So we'll turn it on, get up to 300 microamps on the from K to G2, which should be around 300 volts. And it takes a while. You can almost have to let it warm up a little bit. It's like kind of weird. Yeah, see, like it keeps climbing. Alright, 299, that's good enough. And you see where it's at. If I can get my finger on this thing. This is what's like trips me out, is like just a second ago it was adjusting and now it's not. Alright, I have it set to 300 microamps, but I let it cool off and everything. I don't know if that makes a difference, but turn it on. Boop. And we'll wait till it gets to 300 amps, I guess, and see my needle's like slowly decreasing. And it takes a little bit for it to climb up there for some reason. So I'm saying this one's behaving somewhat differently. But it definitely adjusts. See, I can adjust the I don't know. It's weird. Definitely gets I think I'm going to just stop here because this is as far as I can get. I don't know why this one's behaving a little bit differently, if it's good or bad. Not sure.